With love from Mama to Shahzaib and to all my special kids in the world. Year 2002 holds a very special place of significance in my life, as I was bestowed with the most amazing gift with the grace of Almighty. I was going to be a mommy. However, things did not go as planned. During my third trimester, I was informed about some major complications, but that did not stop me from braving the storm with determination and courage. My son, Shahzaib, was born with some special needs. But what came along as a pleasant surprise is the beautiful life I have been experiencing since then. I know what you must be wondering as to how I am being able to describe my life as beautiful while carrying such a huge responsibility on my shoulders. I have been asked this question by several people I have met, even by friends who are very close to me and parents of other special needs kids. Well, it is not like that I am the only happy special kid mother in the whole world. I have my mentors and inspirations too. And some of them don't have special need kids, but what inspires me mostly about them is the general behavior that they have towards challenges in life. It was that destined trip to London in year 2016 when we took Shahzaib for his first annual method therapy that changed the way I saw things. During Shahzaib's therapy, I was in constant interaction with his therapist Doreen, and one fine day she asked me something which my father had asked me several times in his lifetime. She asked me to write a book on my journey with Shahzaib and that how beautifully I've handled the challenges. I knew the advice was wonderful, but having no experience in writing, I did not see myself getting into it right away. I had decided to go ahead only when I was sure that I'm ready to take such a huge responsibility on my shoulders. Since then, 5 years had passed. We had eventually moved to Bahrain by then. The concept of writing the book was at the back of my mind. However, destiny had other plans for me. It so happened that once two of my friends mentioned the idea of writing a book on my journey with Shahzaib again. That encouraged me to write this book and stated the various ways how it can and will help other parents like me who are going through the same challenges. Their encouraging words motivated me further to delve into the subject of writing a book on my perceptions and experiences. I have always believed that every soul on this earth has a purpose in this life. I realized that the reason that my son Shahzaib came into my life is to enable me to help other people like me as much as I can. Thus, by finding the purpose of my life and giving it a lot of thought, I decided to go ahead with the idea of compiling my journey in a form of a book and give it a try. I am a proud mother, having an experience of raising a special needs child for 19 years and continuing to do so, taking care of him 24/7, 52 years a week. Since this book is my first book and it is very close to my heart, I decided to have a heart-to-heart conversation with you all, and I'm very excited to share with everyone how wonderfully my life has changed after Shahzaib was born, how I became a different person, and what joys he has brought to us and the whole family. It doesn't mean that we don't have challenges. We do face obstacles, but who doesn't have challenges in their life? Challenges come only to make us strong if we want to. Just tell yourself, this shall pass too. I will share with you everything I went through and I'm going through, how they affected me and how I overcame them. I will also tell you the various kinds of therapies you may or may not know about, some important aspects of everyday life around raising an autistic child that you may not be aware of, and also why should you take your special child very positively and why it is very important to stay positive. How small things and ideas can change your life and make it happier and easier. Another word which has become a prominent feature of my life is patience. How to be patient and why. Trust me, you will hear this word all the time and from everyone. Parents having older special needs can totally understand me here and relate to this. Since I'm not a doctor or a medical expert in the field of autism, I have not gone into the technical or medical details so much. It is the primarily story of my ongoing journey with Shahzaib. How my life has totally changed for the better, what I have learned through this journey and still learning, and how my perspective has changed towards life and the concept of happiness. In this book, I will share with you how I have learned to celebrate each successful milestone. It doesn't matter how long they took to be achieved. I will share with you how to celebrate happiness with your specially able child, how to be grateful and content in what we have, and how I learned so many new things about physical health and healing. And if my story can change even one mindset, one life, or if it can change one person's perspective, or even bring a smile on his face, it will be worth all the effort. What's in it for you? Number 1, tips on how to cope up with the daily challenges having a child or family member with special needs. Number 2, roadmap on the rehabilitation planning. Number 3, information regarding access to treatments and therapies. Number 4, links to worldwide websites and mobile applications for special needs. Number 5, how to support and empower the families having family member with special needs. Number 6, how to educate kids to adopt the right attitude towards disabilities. Number 7, general public awareness to understand the needs and wants of special needs kids and adults. To write this book, I relied upon my personal experiences, observations, and researched facts. I also consulted with several of the people, some of whom appeared in my book also. Hello, it's me. Born third child in my family. One of the first memories of my childhood is my father taking us out in his car to a nearby supermarket, Bridge Store, because it is situated near the famous Clifton Bridge in the heart of my beloved city, Karachi, to buy us chocolates and biscuits. I remember it was a maroon Honda Civic car, beautiful and spacious. In a family of 8, I was right at the center. My parents, my paternal grandmother on one side, one elder brother and sister, and 2 younger brothers on the other side. God bless us all. I remember being the brat of the family. Nobody knows why. Perhaps what the science pundits say about third-born child is true. Being third gives you more freedom, but also makes you want to be heard. Be the boss or bring out your dominating nature. Living in a joint family definitely made me a strong person. It taught me how to cope up with different situations, how to deal with different personalities. The most beautiful thing I learned being a part of big families before and after I got married is to learn to respect others' ideologies and accept them as they are. No one is perfect, including me. It is important to find the best in every individual, to forgive them, and most importantly, forgive myself. I was born a misfit, the odd one out, the black sheep of the family, whatever you may want to call it. But I was the apple of my father's eye. I think he saw the warrior in me, and he loved it. He even enrolled me in the karate classes so that I can make full use of my inborn traits. I enjoyed my childhood thoroughly with my siblings and my friends, cycling, going out for morning walks, swinging on old trees, enjoying and playing in the rain for hours, sleepovers at my favorite aunt's place with my cousins, watching horror movies, going to the amusement parks, to picnics, to safari parks, total outdoors, so close to nature. Unlike kids now, always on their iPads and mobiles. I feel sorry for them. I used to hate going to school. Perhaps I had some very strict teachers who would want to see me as perfect as they were in the respective subjects when I was only 5 or 6 years old. I was very scared of them. I've never believed in learning something without understanding, but we were just supposed to learn everything by heart without understanding them. This made me really frustrated, and so I would not finish my assignments and would get punished every time. Later on, in senior classes, I started enjoying my studies because they were more application oriented. I was very choosy with my dressing and would not compromise on anything than the latest fashion. I was, and still am, very possessive about my belongings. I would let my sister use them but with care. I still use my clothes, shoes, bags with good care. Being an organized child, who would like to stick to a schedule? And while I was known to be hot-tempered, there was one thing that everyone admired about me, and that was that I possessed a compassionate, loving, and caring soul. Crazy combination, huh? And now when I look back at my growing up years, I wonder why I was being trained by the supreme power or the universe to face what was yet to come. Yes, I strongly believe so. Unlike many of my peers, I enjoyed being in the company of older and wiser people, listening to their ideas of life through their experiences and receiving so many insights. Spending every day in the same routine, observing the same patterns in a protected environment, not having much exposure to social media unlike children today, I would imagine life to be a cycle: birth, education, marriage, having children, getting old, and then dying, which seemed very monotonous to me. I always used to believe that there is more to life. Being the highly evolved creatures on this planet, we must certainly have a mission. What is the purpose? However, I did recognize the fact that there are few people who dare to live this cycle differently and make a difference. I owe my knowledge of these monotony breakers to several literary discussions that I had with my parents and my aunt. My father had a master's degree and gold medalist in English literature, a freelance journalist with a great sense of humor, whereas my mother has a master's degree and gold medalist in Urdu literature and an educationist, and my aunt, my mother's sister, who was very fond of reading books also. I would spend some time alone in my room with my dolls or in the balcony, which overlooked beautiful neem trees, one of the most promising of all plants, may eventually benefit every person on the planet. Dancing in the wind, I would contemplate on what could I do to live a different life, a life where even after I die, people would remember me in a positive way. How could I make a stranger cry over my death? I would often ask myself, how can I be different? How do I become famous? Should I become a poet and inspire people with my musings? Should I become a social worker and alleviate the sufferings of thousands? These decisions weighed heavily on my too young to decide 12-year-old mind. Then one day, while going through the same thoughts, getting very upset and exasperated, I made a wish from the depth of my heart. Oh Allah, please bless me with a special life, not the regular one and commonplace, one that I see others go through, but one that when I die, people would remember me for, the life of a great human being. Please make my life useful, worth living for others and myself. I didn't realize till a few years ago that it was the first manifestation of a divinely magical life for me. Life was still pretty much the same usual and nondescript one. I passed school and college, did my internship at some very reputable organizations and learned a lot by trial and error. My own family had expanded by then. Brother got married, sister got married, and I had become aunt of 3 adorable kids. It was now the time for the bird to come out of the nest and face the world. I had my share of good and bad experiences, met both kinds of people, people who hated me and people who loved me. My philosophy was very simple: to treat people as they want to be treated, to tell them what they want to listen and show them what they want to see. You may not agree with me, and even I don't totally agree with this approach anymore too. My observant nature and overthinking have polished my insights and instincts, but this is how you learn and evolve. Secondly, my head was always been over my heart. The way God has made it so no emotional decisions, but I do get very emotional at times. Going through the different phases of my life, I eventually got married. Chapter 2: New Beginnings. With weddings in the close family and friends, and traveling to international destinations, the first year of my marriage passed with a blink of an eye. Phew! By the grace of God, in the midst of all this, I discovered my pregnancy. The news came as a sheer pleasure for both the families, and I started receiving all kinds of tips and do's and don'ts from the ladies of the family. Everything was going just perfect according to the plan, but the universe had some other plans. I had forgotten about my wish, but the universe had not forgotten, and it was the time for it to come true. During my 4th month in my 2nd trimester, one day I had a bad stomach ache. When I was taken to the hospital by my husband, I was diagnosed with stomach infection and got admitted for treatment. I was relieved to know that the baby inside my womb was doing fine, according to the ultrasound reports. I had not inquired about the gender of the baby. I wanted it to be a surprise for us. It was when I went for my routine checkup after a month of the illness that my doctor told me that she's suspecting something and advised me to go for another ultrasonography test. After a few days, when we met her, she told us that there is something wrong and the baby's size is not according to the gestational age, but that to reconfirm, I need to get some more investigations done. We, as the first-time parents, had no clue of what was going on. We were just following the doctor's advice. We had no idea of the extent of the problem. The same problem about the baby's size was identified in the 2nd and the 3rd ultrasound from different ultrasound clinics. The baby's head size was okay, but its femur, also called the thigh bone, upper bone of the leg or hind leg, was shorter and was not complying with the normal size range of the gestational age. My doctor gave me a long list of tests to be done, while mentioning that none of them can reverse a situation. They also inform us that they would not be able to do anything with the problems my baby may have from before birth. Sadly, they were also unable to diagnose what these problems could be. Therefore, I decided against subjecting my baby and myself to further tests, which would expose us to more electric rays and additional stress, especially when these tests cannot help to reverse the existing problem or make the situation better. I started praying to God to make it less bad for my child and me, and Allah, being the most merciful and most honorable, heard this prayer of mine too. Meanwhile, I kept in touch with my elder brother, who is a doctor living in another city, guiding me about the tests, following up on the medications and results on daily basis. It is such a huge blessing to have a doctor in the family. I was feeling fine otherwise, but yes, movements were less and weak. Also, I had developed a lot of edema on the whole body, especially feet area. Warning: abnormal edema or swelling during the pregnancy should not be ignored. It was the 1st of September, just a month before my due date. I had started to feel a little uneasy with some throbbing in my head. I got my blood pressure checked, a must during the whole pregnancy, and was relieved to find that it was okay. I had the same symptoms the following day. These symptoms got a little more intense, but this time I found my blood pressure was high. So I lay down thinking that it may be stress. By evening, my in-laws and my husband took me to the hospital forcefully. Never take risks, chances, thinking all is okay. That's how finally the big day arrived, way before it was supposed to. According to my chart, doctor, I was supposed to deliver the baby on the 3rd of October, but exactly 1 month earlier, 2nd September, while I was still in my 35th week, I was admitted to the hospital with raised blood pressure and headache. After doing the necessary investigations and examinations, doctors found out that my LDH, lactate dehydrogenase, levels had gone high. This factor made them decide to go an emergency LSCS, lower segment cesarean section, on me. The next morning was a new sunrise. I remember gaining some consciousness and my anesthetist saying, "Amna, congratulations. You have given birth to a beautiful baby boy." I smiled and dozed off again, not knowing that our life has changed forever, for the better. Oh, heck yes. Chapter number 3. Muhammad Shahzaib Lali, Crown of a King. I remember getting transferred to my room and seeing my parents and parents-in-law standing there. I asked them, "How is my baby?" My father-in-law replied, "Oh, he's perfectly fine and very cute, like a cub." Feeling relieved, I smiled and dozed off again. I woke up with the doctor calling my name and asking me how I am feeling and if I could move my toes. I was in terrible pain, as if someone had stabbed me several times in my stomach. I was put on heavy painkillers, which were making me sleepy. Still, I could feel the pain and could hear all kind of machines beeping around me. The doctor came again in the afternoon to inform me that my son is born with a low birth weight of 1.08 kgs because of multiple reasons, which I have explained in the end of this chapter, and that he must be kept in the incubator for neonatal intensive care. The good news was he cried on his own when they took him out, which meant his lungs were working even though they were weak. I was also under observation for my high blood pressure, which was fluctuating and got stabilized slowly. After 2 days, the doctors finally allowed me to see my son, Muhammad Shahzaib. I got dressed and gathered the strength to meet him. My husband and I were escorted to the NICU, Neonatal Intensive Care Unit. On reaching, I saw a card that read, "Baby boy of Amna," tagged on his incubator. I tried to absorb the whole situation. There lay my small little 1.08 kg baby under this bright light of the incubator, like a Hollywood star, basking in all the limelight, with tubes and IVs larger than his own body. What a cute small little creature, as my father would say, miracle baby. I remembered picking him up out of the incubator in bundles of clothes so that he can maintain his body temperature. He held my finger and with his big eyes he looked around. I kissed him and whispered in his ear, "Welcome to our world, my baby. I love you. You are so cute." Shahzaib, with such a low birth weight, had only skin and bones, no eyebrows, no flesh. Thank God he had all the limbs. I checked. While we were going back, the nurse updated us on his medical status, about the treatments he was getting, etc. But I was still dazed and quite lost. It felt like a dream, the early feelings of motherhood, and I decided to find out later if it was a good dream or a bad dream, only when I got over this daze. It was a feeling I can never explain. So before you read further, let me explain to you what happened. While I was expecting my baby, everything was okay until I got that stomach infection. My doctor had made me go through some routine checkups again and found out that the baby is smaller than normal. There could be several reasons for this. The medication I had to take, the edema I developed, my high blood pressure, which may have affected the blood supply to the placenta, and so on. At the time of Shahzaib's birth, all tests were done, and I was told that my son is an IUGR, intrauterine growth retardation, which can cause delay in achieving his milestones. No significant diagnoses were made, no specific label was given, hence, we were set on an unknown path without any navigation aid like Google Maps. I had to leave the hospital after 5 days. Family and friends came with a mixed feeling. So many messages got stacked. I asked my family to be happy and to celebrate. They thought I was being strong, but I was genuinely very happy. Shahzaib stayed in the NICU for 14 days. It was very painful for us to leave our baby in the hospital, but it was very essential for Shahzaib to get all the medical help he needed, as was the need of the time, and we had to accept it and come to terms with it. After all, it was all for Shahzaib's good. I would go to the hospital every day to meet my baby. He was on my feet, which I used to express and refrigerate. The doctor started with 1 cc of milk dose. His abdomen had to be measured before each feed to check for any gases in air. Then he would be fed by a tube. I would simply stand there watching my baby breathing and sleeping with all kinds of machines beeping around him and several needles enough to cover his small body. Certainly, we were not the only parents at the NICU undergoing the pain and the trauma of watching our child fight like this. There were worse cases with issues we never heard and thought of. I saw lives being changed, from perfect families to not so perfect families. All parents were going through the same emotions, anxiety, sadness, happiness. While some of these babies were first born, many of them had siblings. Some babies, they were born after several years of marriage, after lots of prayers and treatments. Some babies were tough enough to make it out that room alive, while some sadly were destined to go back to their creator. All of them became Shahzaib's and my best friends. I used to go and see every child every day with the hope that I see them alive and progressing. We parents would exchange notes, give each other hope, and pray for each other. I had made some lifelong best friends. It's been almost 2 decades, but our souls are still connected very strongly. After 14 days, Shahzaib was moved to a special ward called One Level Up. It was one level up from the NICU, a ward which was designed and equipped for children who needed vigilant observation 24/7. We did try for a private room but were refused and were asked to stay in the ward. They said they could allow me or any other close family member to stay with Shahzaib as his attendant. Later we realized and thank God that we were refused to have a private room. So in the One Level Up ward, there were 8 beds, 4 beds in a row and 4 in the opposite direction. Each bed had an incubator or a cot according to the need of the child, with an on-duty nurse 24/7 and some important emergency equipment. Shahzaib was still in the incubator and I used to stay on a single bed right beside his bed. There were few more nurses who would visit shift-wise and help the mothers in managing the kids and teaching them home care. One nurse would come and give sponge bath to all the babies, and one would come and check their vital signs and adjust their feed timings and quantity. While it was very painful to see all the little angels go through the trauma of having needles being pierced through them for various purposes, there was a sense of relief that they were in good hands and were taken care of very well. One thing parents of kids with special needs must realize and should understand and be ready to accept is that these kids have special needs and so many other issues. It is better to keep calm and deal with them rather than panic over these. Our 2-week stay in the ward was a roller coaster ride. Some days were very smooth, while on other days, some new issues would pop up. These kids had needless all over them to the extent that sometimes if the doctors could not find any good vein in the body, they would find a vein in the head. Watching these babies put up such brave fights is in itself a very humbling experience. One realizes the miracles of birth and the importance of each and every cell and part of the body. Often we take everything so much for granted. One day when I woke up in the morning, I looked at Shahzaib, and to my horror, he was slowly turning blue, and as if he was not breathing. I screamed and called the nurse, and she hit Shahzaib hard on the back twice or thrice to make him cry. Thankfully that worked, and he did cry, and we all were relieved. The nurse was quite vigilant and gave Shahzaib first aid. Coping with such unforeseen challenges almost every day was gradually making me quite strong. I started to remain calm and tried to look for solutions to every problem as it arose. The doctors were unable to find the cause of his choking, thus as everything looked fine and every test was okay. So after 2 days of investigation, one of the junior doctors realized something after examining his stomach closely, and he took Shahzaib to the treatment room, which was outside the ward. I had named this room the torture room. As you could see, happy babies going in, coming out crying. Cannulas were exchanged there and sometimes blood extraction or enemas carried out. The doctor's suspicion was right. Shahzaib was retaining urine in his stomach since his brain was still weak and would forget to send signals to the body to pass the urine. My 2 kg baby had retained 40 cc urine in his stomach, which resulted in the suppressing of his lungs. This had gradually led to his choking. The human body system is one of the highest intricate machineries which only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can create. Another day, doctor could hear a murmuring sound in Shahzaib and took him for a scan to test him for PDA, patent ductus arteriosus. PDA is a persistent opening between the 2 major blood vessels leading from the heart. The opening, called the ductus arteriosus, is a normal part of a baby's circulatory system. Soon after a baby's birth, when the lungs get filled with air, the ductus arteriosus is no longer needed by the body and closes down itself. If it does not close by itself, it is referred to as PDA. Being prematurely born and of very low weight, Shahzaib did run the risk of having a PDA. So we were informed that if PDA was less than 2.5%, the doctors will leave it to get closed by itself. However, it was greater than 2.5, then they would have to do a surgery. Thank God it was less than 2.5% for Shahzaib. Doctor said he did not need any surgery, as it will close with time. Thankfully, it did become normal with time. The rest of the days went smoothly. We were lucky to have amazing nursing staff in the hospital, and one of them was Seema. I used to call her Shahzaib's godmother. She focused on his feeding and other parameters of progress. She started feeding Shahzaib with a spoon, which helped him a lot in gaining weight and become more stable. I can never forget her beautiful smile. On the 27th of September, 2 main doctors came to check Shahzaib to see if he was ready to go home. They checked his weight and other developments. His weight by then was almost 2 kgs. Yes, his weight gain was slow. Anyways, I assured the doctors that I will take good care of Shahzaib at home. One of the doctors were skeptical, but eventually they agreed to let him go. And the next day, they discharged us both from the hospital. On the 28th of September 2002, my baby came home. Chapter number 4. Welcome home, my baby. My baby arrived home, and so the happiness, so the good luck. We had the room set from before, no carpet, sanitized, with my baby cot and a wall mural beside that wall, some balloons. But we couldn't do much as we had to be very careful with the hygiene. Shahzaib was still very small and could catch viruses very quickly. We could not afford to be careless with him. Shahzaib's cot with his toy and cot mobile was a delightful sight. Everyone in the family was happy. They were also amused at how fast he was growing. He weighed 2 kilos by now. And as expected, First night at home was a little tough. Shahzaib missed the hospital, which he thought was his home. So he cried the whole night. The sound of him crying was truly music to the ears. We had missed him for all these days that he was at hospital. We thanked God for his health and for all the senses. Curious and concerned families and friends came to meet us, trying to grasp the situation, cracking jokes and trying to make us feel happy. I love my family and friends. Sweets were distributed by my parents and my in-laws to all of them. Now, although I had assured the doctors that I will take care of Shahzaib, I was scared inside of not being able to take care of him the way he was taken care in the hospital. This apprehension in me was so strong that I had gone into a postpartum depression and could not stop crying for 3 days. On each of these 3 days, I would take Shahzaib to the hospital just to check if he was fine and to ensure that I was doing all things right regarding his care. On the 3rd day, the doctor got upset and he advised me not to come and expose Shahzaib to the hospital infections. He also advised me not to worry as we were taking good care of him. However, I was still very upset. As we came out of the room, we saw something that worked as a miracle for me. A couple who was with us in the ward was sitting in the waiting area. Their son was suffering for a major lifelong problem. We noticed that the mother was laughing and looked quite relaxed. My husband suggested that I learn from her how to ignore problems and still be happy. He said, "Your son is doing fine and you can't stop crying. Look at her, she knows her son has a lifelong problem, but still she's laughing." My husband was right. I learned a great lesson then, and this lesson has been with me ever since. I never cried again till date, no matter how challenging the situation had been. I have always reminded myself of the sight of that lady laughing and told myself, this too shall pass. We had to be extra careful with hygiene conditions around us as Shahzaib was still very small and was easily susceptible to infections. We removed the carpet from the floor and no shoes were allowed in the room. Anyone who would pick Shahzaib had to wash or sanitize their hands before, and no one having the slightest infection was allowed near him. Every bottle of milk was sterilized after each use. I used to give him a bath myself and wash his clothes myself and would not take him in his big gatherings or crowds. We have been lucky as a couple to have very supportive families and friends. Since Shahzaib's birth to date, he has received so much love and attention. Chapter number 5: Early Intervention and its Significance. After making sure Shahzaib is well settled and home and his immunity strong enough to fight any kind of infections in the environment, I started planning his early intervention. Getting the right diagnosis and working on early intervention is the second most important thing, accepting the fact that your child needs this support being the first. Early intervention is defined as a system of coordinated services that promotes a child's age-appropriate growth and development and supports families during the critical early years. Intervention services are based on your child's individual needs to help your child learn and grow. Accessing intervention services as early as possible can be beneficial because, number 1, research shows that children's earliest experiences play a critical role in brain development. Hence, an early development can reduce the possibility of future problems concerning their learning and health. By getting high-quality intervention services, children can catch up to the same developmental levels as other children of their age. Intervention is likely to be more effective and less costly when it is provided earlier in life rather than later. Guidance can be taken from the hospital where the child is born, doctors or family and friend circle. We sought guidance from both the sources. To start with, we had to make sure that his weight and immune system were strong enough to fight the different infections in the environment. But before that, he had to go through some routine checkups for the next year just to make sure he's doing fine and that staying in the incubator for so many days didn't affect some of his organs like eyes and brain. Brain MRI, eyes and orbit tests and hearing tests are very crucial and must get done whether or not your doctor prescribes them. After getting all these tests done and ruling out the possibilities of any damage, we thought of taking a step forward. We did our research and found out that in the early intervention plan, there are 3 types of main therapies. Physical therapy, which is also called PT. It deals with all kinds of physical disabilities, muscular weaknesses, posture correctness, balancing, etc. Physical therapy can be applied from 6 months onwards. Occupational therapy, OT. It helps with cognitive, fine, and motor gross skills. Also activities of daily life, ADL, like dressing up, brushing, etc. Occupational therapy can be applied from 8 months onwards. Speech therapy. It helps with any speech delays or problems related to speech like stammering, etc. If you observe any issues in speech, you can start consulting a speech therapist or pediatrician. Applied Behavior Analysis, ABA. Commonly referred to as ABA, this deals with the overall behavior of the child. Here applied means already successfully applied or implemented. Depending on the child's functional abilities, occupational and speech therapy can be delayed till the age of 1 year. Sometimes when the child overcomes the physical challenges, cognitive skills improve automatically. In Shahzaib's case, we started with the physical therapy only, as he had to be physically stable before he could learn anything else. Shahzaib could not learn spontaneously. We had to teach him most of the skills by a certain method and repetition. Things a child would do spontaneously. It worked well for him. He learned to sit and roam around in the walker, but I noticed that Shahzaib was not developing social skills when it came to communicating outside the family. He sees all the time. So I wanted him to be around more children and to learn communicate with other children also. My best friend and cousin who was working in a Montessori advised me to come and meet the principal. The only hindrance was the physical dependency. So I went and met the principal, owner of the Montessori, who listened to me patiently and with attention and agreed to give Shahzaib admission. She also allowed me to sit with him in the class because it was a mainstream nursery and teachers were not trained to handle special needs children. In the class, all the children could walk and talk. Shahzaib was neither on his own non-verbal and hence needed one-to-one attention, which the nursery was not equipped for that time. Shahzaib learned a lot as to how to cope up with different kind of kids and their behavior and how to behave in a classroom environment, paying attention to what the teacher is saying. Shahzaib and I really used to enjoy all the activities including circle time, lunch time, play time, with pets, splash day, etc. It was indeed a great exposure for my baby. After 1 year, my husband got a job in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and we moved to the capital city, Riyadh. Living away from the family for the first time ever was not a very comforting thought. But thanks to the warm and welcoming neighborhood of different nationalities, including some of my husband's friends from Pakistan, working in the same banking industry, we got settled in no time. Everybody loved Shahzaib. It was a whole new experience for us. After settling down mentally, we started looking for a rehabilitation center for our little one. A doctor told us about a center in the outskirts of Riyadh called Prince Sultan bin Abdulaziz Humanitarian City. We found the contact and took an appointment. This rehabilitation center was situated 25 kilometers outside the capital where we were living. The rehabilitation was a beautiful place. Nobody can miss the elegant building standing tall amidst lush greenery in the middle of the desert. We were in awe when we reached there. It was truly like a city, state of the art, spread over miles. It comprised separate buildings for adults and children. The waiting area was beautiful like a resort. huge glass walls behind us, overlooking the tall pine and date trees. The children area where we directed to meet the doctors and the therapists was also very clean and colorful, equipped with all kinds of gadgets and necessary equipment. Here, a thorough assessment of Shahzaib was done, followed by some forms to be filled by the parents or guardian, providing all the necessary information like his likes and dislikes, favorite food, favorite toys, sleeping time and patterns, routines, act, so that a personalized plan can be made for him. All the therapists were very friendly and proficient in their work. They all fell in love with Shahzaib immediately. They were from different countries and different cultural backgrounds, but had the same kind of golden heart. Shahzaib's plan was made, and I used to take him thrice a week for 3 hours, including 1 hour of occupational therapy, 1 hour of physical therapy, and 1 hour of speech therapy. Everything was going as per routine when we had to move back to Pakistan, as my husband got a very good job offer in Pakistan. Then, since it was the time when General Musharraf became the president of Pakistan, the economy was booming, and so we moved back to Pakistan. After settling down with basics like house and stuff, we started looking for school and therapists for Shahzaib. And my husband's aunt, my mother-in-law's sister, referred to us a school, Special Children Educational Institute, SCEI, run by a wonderful lady called Miss Saima Haq. We booked an appointment and went to meet her. Saima, also known as Sam, sitting in her simple and small office with a table and chair, some shelves and cupboards, and a lot of cute photographs and artworks made by her kids, as she always refers to her students as her own kids, vouching her selflessness and her love for children with special needs. Saima welcomed us with a very warm smile and inquired me in a very kind way about Shahzaib while observing him carefully. I knew I'm at the right place. In the coming years, I realized that Sam has this special bond with all the parents of her students. I always find her smiling and so welcoming that you can't help but talk your heart out to her. So you can just walk into her office anytime. She will listen to your concerns and try her best to resolve it as soon as possible. The moment I saw the school and her, I knew Shahzaib is in good hands. Another amazing person, Meher Kawasji, the vice principal of the school, I would say the backbone of the school, is an inspiration for everyone around her. I used to be in an awe looking at her running around the whole day and taking care of each student like her own kids. She knows each student inside out. Miss Meher showed us around the school. I loved the bright, airy and big classrooms with a big hall and big lawn for extracurricular activities. Finding a good special needs school is a task. You must make sure your child is safe first, and then he will be surrounded by loving people and learning something, even if it may be slow. Make sure the teachers are qualified and the school has basic infrastructure to support your child's special needs. Talk and meet the therapist who will be teaching your child. Last but not the least, hygiene. Make sure the school or therapy center is clean and they practice the basic hygiene conditions. Attending school made a huge difference in our lives. We could see Shahzaib progressing slowly. We continued with outside therapies as well. When Shahzaib was 12 years old, he suffered an epileptic seizure due to the side effect of nebulization. One must be very careful with nebulizing. It is not as simple as it seems. Overdose can cause seizures, and that is what happened in Shahzaib's case. It was a big challenge for us. We had to look for a good neurologist who can give us the best combination of medicines to prevent the seizures. These medicines can have lots of side effects. Also, once you put your child on these medicines, you cannot wean off before 3 years at least. We found a good doctor and started the medication. We had to be careful with certain things, like Shahzaib should not be left alone, he should sleep well, and should not be exposed to flashy lights or images. We take every day as it comes. We travel with Shahzaib and we lead a very normal life with him. We have been taking him to birthday parties, weddings, and malls. Shahzaib loves to travel in the car and listen to loud music. The arrival of Shahzaib totally changed my life. I changed a lot and I became more patient. One very important thing I would like to mention here is that in all these, parents must not forget to take care of themselves. Physical fitness and healthy relationship are very important. I have learned that if parents are physically and emotionally stable, it makes a huge difference in a child's emotional and physical health. It is very important for parents to be in a healthy relationship. Don't feel depressed. Travel with your child. Leave them alone with the family sometimes for bonding. And go out alone just to have coffee or dinner. We all learn from our mistakes, and it is important to not only learn but also not to repeat those mistakes. Mothers especially should take care of their physical as well as mental health, because in such situations, mothers, despite being an integral part of the family, tend to neglect themselves as the whole focus is on the child. They should take care of their postures, especially the back. I made the same mistake of completely ignoring my health for a few months as all my focus was on Shahzaib. I developed a backache the same year Shahzaib was born. I had ignored it. Everybody thought it was normal to have it after childbirth, as the body is still weak, and in my case, I did not take any postpartum care. The thumb rule is when you have pain anywhere in your body, it is giving you a signal that something is wrong and you must take care of it. So do not ignore it. I developed backache because of wrong postures, too much unattended wrong exercise, and of course physical stress. So after putting up with my backache for 2 years, I finally had to undergo a surgery as I had herniated my spine disc, which needed to be removed. For 1 week I was in the hospital, and after that I required 6 months of bed rest. Phew, I don't know how that passed. As usual, my family supported me in every way they could. Trust me, it's a very painful procedure and your back is never the same. I still must manage it with exercises and stuff, and because of this I started doing my research on how to manage your back pain, and the deeper I went into it, the more interested I got in the subject of physical wellness. I did some courses and became an instructor focusing not only on the exercise but on the general health and wellness. Later, I became a licensed Zumba instructor too. Lesson for the new mothers. They must give attention to their posture, especially after delivery, and should be careful while bending and lifting anything heavy. They must also seek some professional help for postnatal and strengthening exercises. While taking care of ourselves, my husband and I were trying to identify Shahzaib's interests so that we can work on them to enhance them. Shahzaib is non-verbal. He can say mama and baba, but he communicates through pointing fingers. We got his hearing check done. It is okay, alhamdulillah, but no speech. But we talk to him because he can understand everything, and we know that we can pick all the words, and hopefully he will start talking one day, God willing. If your child is not verbal, it is okay. Teach him/her global signs, which everyone can understand, like gesture for being hungry, wanting to go to the toilet, and wanting to sleep. Many therapists would not agree with me because they always recommend a more profound way of communication like PECS, Picture Exchange Communication System, in which pictures of everything in your child's life is taken and the child is supposed to choose a desired picture and hand it over to someone. This is taught in levels. I would still rate it as the best way because it's available on iPad now and there are so many PACS applications having all the necessary tools. Secondly, sign language, where certain signs are taught to the child to communicate. To date, I am hopeful that Shahzaib will start talking one day. However, while I am hoping for the best, I am also prepared for the worst. What if he doesn't? So I told myself that I cannot wait for the whole life for him to start talking. So I must do something to ensure that he can learn pointing out at least and the basic global signs. Always try new methods. I remember a conversation I had a couple of years back with Saima Haq from Sky. One day we were just sitting chatting casually in her office. She said, Amna, you can work best with special needs when you don't think about their limitations. This got stuck in my mind, and yes, I work best with Shahzaib when I think there is no limitation. Patience is a prime requisite in handling children with special needs. You must be very patient with them and keep stimulating them. They are human beings with different abilities. Don't think of them as any less. They may be different in expressing their emotions. A special needs child is not ignoring you. He is just simply waiting for you to enter their world. Don't make them understand you. Understand them and see from their perspective. After 7 years, we moved to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia again. Shahzaib was 10 years old at that time and had become used to the schooling system, so we had put him in a special school. Despite being one of the richest countries in the world, Saudi Arabia unfortunately does not have much to offer to special aid schooling, especially for expatriates. There are rehab centers in 1 or 2 states, but expats are not allowed to access them. So if you're planning to work in Saudi and with special need kid, it is advisable to do your research in advance. Join a group or blog and make sure your child's specific demands are met. Having said that, after doing a lot of research, we found out that there are many individuals who are doing sessions privately, visiting the kids at home. We found a physiotherapist who would come home thrice a week and a behavior therapist to whom we would go twice a week. We could really turn every task into fun, and that really helped. Whenever everything was under control, my husband had to change his job. And living in Riyadh for 3 years, we had to move to Khobar, the eastern part of the kingdom. Khobar, being a small city, has not much to offer to special kids. I went to each and every school, checked out all the hospitals and looked for the therapists, but could not find anything suitable for Shahzaib. Disheartened, when I mentioned it to my friend who is a speech therapist living in another city, Dammam, she advised me to check options in the Kingdom of Bahrain, which is only 1 hour drive from Khobar. Although it's a different country from Saudi Arabia, but the borders are very friendly, and there's a 25-kilometer highway known as the Causeway that connects both the countries. It is an amazing facility provided by the governments of both the countries to boost trade and commerce between the nations. So many people live in Bahrain and work in Saudi Arabia because of better facilities available in Bahrain. I started my research in Bahrain and found some good schools and contacted them. One of the schools, Ria, welcomed us. Run by a special parent herself, Christine was a delight to meet. She had opened the school to help children with special needs like her own son. At first, I used to take him thrice a week to Bahrain from Khobar in a private taxi and used to sit in the school and then come back to Saudi Arabia after 3 hours. While sitting and waiting for Shahzaib in the school, I kept looking for other facilities and therapists available for special kids to make sure it will be worth moving here. And yes, I did find a lot of good other school activities and therapists. Hence, we decided to move to Bahrain. Chapter number 6, Bahrain, a life-changing experience. Nothing is coincidental, and every person comes into your life for a reason. Now you know, so start paying attention. We moved to Bahrain in 2015. Bahrain, or Bahrain, as expats would call it generally, is like home. It is very accommodating and not very commercial. Here, the pace of life is a little slower as compared to the other Middle Eastern countries. It is a small country with a total area of 780 kilometers, 300 square meters, with an estimated population of 1.706 million in 2021, out of which approximately half are expats. Bahrain is a set in the middle south of the Persian Gulf. The word Bahrain means 2 seas, implying that the island contains 2 kinds of water in the sea. Hence, it is famous for its pearls and World Heritage sites. Before the discovery of oil, Bahrain was popular for being the connecting port between the modern-day Iraq and Southeast Asia. While Shahzaib continued going to the same school, I was looking for some more advanced schools and therapists. Living in the same city made it very easy for me to do so. During my search, I met one lady who has a lifelong impact on our lives. I met Fadia, the founder of SFS, Special Family Support, a support group for the families with special needs children and adults. Fadia, with her unbelievable, positive, and extremely helping attitude, made a huge impact on our lives. I think it would be unfair if I tell you about SFS before introducing Fadia, the mastermind behind it. She's an amazing lady from the capital of Pakistan, Islamabad. God gave her 2 beautiful sons. The second was one born without hands. Her purpose of life had finally arrived. Upon moving to Bahrain, she had to go through a lot of difficulties when it came to her son's education. Her son, despite being differently abled, is intellectually very smart and is able to do anything a person with hands can do. So Fadia, upon realizing the need of such a platform for parents like us, started this group SFS, which defined itself as an initiative that helps families who have special needs children by organizing activity-based fun days, providing them with information, schools, centers, therapists, doctors, and equipment providers. Volunteers can become buddies with the children and help them on a regular basis at their homes. SFS also holds events to help raise money for less fortunate special needs children. I got Fadia's contact number through a friend and called her. She immediately asked me to come and meet her, and I can never forget the yummiest Shami kebab, Asian meat kebab at her house. We discussed a lot of things. She asked me many questions about Shahzaib and gave valuable suggestions, encouraging me and providing me with contacts of individuals. This was indeed very helpful, as these people are still helping me. I must admit that through SFS I met the best doctors and educationists in Bahrain. I even got to meet some inspiring parents and made lifelong friends who are beautiful both inside and out. My sincere suggestion is that if you move to a new city or a country with your special child, try to look for such support groups. If you cannot, initiate one. Be a ray of light for others. Later, I joined the group as a volunteer to contribute and help other parents like they helped me. We decided to change Shahzaib's school. Not that I was not happy with the old one, but the school was more suitable to meet his growing needs. To me, it is very important to ensure that the teacher my son will be learning from is kind-hearted and specialized in the educational field, because from my personal experience, I have learned that kind-hearted and dedicated teachers are better than the ones with only lots of certificates and without a kind heart. While it is not fair to generalize, I think a teacher having a good work experience with a good heart is the perfect combination. I would never deny a good teacher with less experience but a kind and patient approach towards my child. In fact, I like teachers who don't go by the book and don't know your child's mental limitations. No, it does not mean overstressing them, but not limiting their capacity to learn. When I work with Shahzaib, I usually try to forget his limitations and his labeled diagnosis. I believe that is he capable of doing everything. If we can successfully teach the animals how to do certain things, then why not our kids? It is not easy, but it's not impossible. Shahzaib has been lucky to find some of the best educated and kind-hearted teachers, as he's going to a special needs center called Little Village Center, run by very competitive management, and getting some advanced therapies at home also. As parents, we must be very vigilant in handing over our child to someone. Chapter number 7. Growing Up Challenges and Importance of Support System. With any child, we think that the worst stage is over and the next step will be easier. But actually, each stage of every child, regardless of being mainstream or special needs, has its own pros and cons. For example, when a child is born normally, parents say, "Oh, it will be easier when he will be walking." But when the child starts to walk, parents realize how much the child was in control when he didn't know how to walk. As much as they wanted him to start walking, they feel things getting more challenging for them. They also enjoy every stage of development. Let us talk about Shahzaib and his growing up challenges we've had and how we overcame them and have been trying to overcome them. My baby is very handsome and cute and a very loving child. His name means face of a king or suitable to be king, and he acts like one. He simply knows how to get his work done. Our biggest challenge is Shahzaib's being a non-verbal child. To overcome this, we have to always make people get used to his gestures and moods by being around him. They should know when he's happy, sad, or angry. His reactions to certain situations like his likes, dislikes, his favorite food, needs. It is important for them to know how he asks for what he wants. We communicate these to everyone around us, even our neighbors. At the same time, we try and get Shahzaib accustomed to his surroundings. Everyone amongst our family and friends and even our neighbors know when Shahzaib is happy, sad or angry or what makes him any of these. Shahzaib has a very sharp memory. He remembers and relates his experiences with people and places and acts accordingly. His being a fast learner helps a lot in his getting accustomed to his new environments. Thank God. These techniques have been working very well for us so far. Our second biggest challenge is Shahzaib's being partially independent, especially as he is growing older. Thank God he can walk on his own, but he doesn't know how to balance himself very well when it comes to barriers or hurdles in the way. Hence, he needs to be accompanied by an adult and he can't be left alone. Good thing is that he's aware of danger, so he's very careful himself. Shahzaib has never been a very big child. He's always been slightly on the heavier side, thanks to the supplements I gave him when he was tiny. But I feel that his being not very tall and broad has been a blessing in disguise, as it would have been very difficult for us to handle him. I'm very grateful to have a strong support system around me, my husband, my family, my husband's family, my friends. Shahzaib being the first special needs child in my family, I had to make everyone understand him. And for that, I had to let Shahzaib spend some time alone with my parents, siblings and their kids. I haven't ever closed him off or let him or anyone feel that he's different. He gets scolded on doing wrong things and he gets appreciated on doing good things. He has certain rules to follow like any other child in the family. He sleeps where everyone sleeps. He eats what everyone eats and with everyone. This is how everyone in my surroundings got to know Shahzaib and vice versa. Now all our family, friends and neighbors know how Shahzaib is happy, sad or angry, or what makes him happy or angry or sad. My nieces and nephews adore Shahzaib and enjoy his company. They do the usual cousin stuff like dancing, playing board games, taking pictures and making videos on the mobile, going outdoors, dance together and so on. Shahzaib, being my only child, enjoys the company of his cousins a lot and he misses them a lot when they are not around. I feel very happy and satisfied when I see them interacting with Shahzaib and understanding him. This is exactly what I wanted, and because of all this understanding, I get the benefit of leaving him with my parents or sibling and go for shopping or meet my friends alone sometimes. My friends and their kids also understand Shahzaib and his needs very well. They make sure to include him in their activities. My friends cook for Shahzaib his favorite food. I get lots of questions from other children like, "Auntie, why does he not talk?" To which my answer mostly is, God has made him like this. You pray to God for him. You see, he can't talk the way you talk, but he can understand whatever you say and do. I sometimes encounter questions like, why is he playing with dolls? He's a boy. My answer to such question is that boys can play with dolls too. I tell them when I was small I used to play with my brother's car, so it is okay. I find these questions so cute and innocent, so I try to come up with the best and easy to understand answer. I have become really good at it now. I also make sure that Shahzaib spends enough time with his father on weekends, as during the weekdays they hardly get any chance to spend time together because of my husband's late working hours. So on weekends, my husband takes him for swimming or horse riding or any other outdoor activity which can be as simple as long drives. Time flies. We didn't realize that Shahzaib is a teenager now and he's supposed to act like one with all the hormonal changes. We can now see the mood swings, tantrums like a typical teenager. He needs his own space, has a mind of his own, he feels most comfortable in his room with his toys. But we can certainly feel and see the changes, and upon absorbing my friends' teenage children and discussing with them, I was happy that he's acting his age and it is normal. Listening to loud music and not liking home-cooked food are also some surprising new traits. We enjoy Shahzaib. We enjoy his every action, any misbehavior, and any demands because we know his mind is working on the right track. You must take care every day as it comes. Plan the future for your child, considering you will not be there for them forever. But don't think and get stressed too much as you don't know anything about the future. It is very normal to think and get scared of the future. I spoke to lots of parents, and we all have the same concern or question in our minds as to what will happen to our child who is totally or partially dependent on us when we will not be there. But I tell myself as well as the other parents not to forget that we are here right now for them, and so we must make the most of it. Spend time with them, teach them whatever we can teach and whatever we can do for them. Save money for them and nominate a person as a guardian who can be trusted with your child and their safety. If you don't want to have anyone, look for a special care house or organizations who are equipped to handle such kids and adults. Every problem has a solution. We only must look for it. Every stage brings new challenges and new solutions. While I'm in the process of writing this book, Shahzaib is still on his epilepsy medication. Yes, he has developed this as a side effect of nebulization. Nebulization is not that simple with special children having history of weak chest or respiratory system. At the time of birth, Shahzaib was in the incubator, which affects the respiratory system and chest mostly. For example, the child can catch a flu, respiratory infections, or simple cough very easily. It gets better with the age. 2 things you must be careful with nebulizing. Don't give your child too concentrated or strong medicine. Don't medicate your child for a long period of time. I don't know how long it will take for Shahzaib to get rid of these medicines, but I pray the doctor will wean him off soon. I'm hoping for the best and preparing for the worst. If the medicine can relieve my son from any pain, I don't mind giving him that for the rest of his life. Chapter number 8. Overcoming the guilt. Guilt is one thing which we all experience. It is a very natural emotion. I always used to feel guilty for not having enough knowledge at the time of my pregnancy, and I would always blame myself for not being capable of changing the situation in any way I wanted. For example, I wish I would not have taken the medicines. I wish I would not have fallen sick, and so on. And after Shahzaib was born, for many years, sometimes until today, I feel guilty of not doing much for him. But then I remind myself of what one of Shahzaib's therapists had asked me once. She asked me if I can remember doing anything intentionally to harm my baby while I was pregnant. I genuinely gave it a thought and said, "Of course not." She said, "If you did not, then it's not your fault. You could not fix anything at the time, but now you can by accepting it." We feel guilty about not doing enough. I used to have the same guilt. With so many therapies and not enough time, I would feel that I'm doing less. One day I was making a schedule for Shahzaib. I realized that the poor kid has got no time to be a kid. Somehow in the struggle of getting more and trying to overcome the guilt that I'm not doing enough for him, I was overdoing it for him. I imagined myself in his place and felt disgusted. The whole day an adult telling me when and how to sit, what to do, how to eat. Oh my God, what have I been doing to my darling? He's not a robot, he has feelings also. From that day I decided that I will let Shahzaib react to situations the way he wants. And I will try to understand him and let him express himself too, before I can impose my expressions on him. So now if he says he doesn't want to go or doesn't want to do a specific thing, I simply allow. That doesn't mean that he can get away. He must listen to me at times too. And now I can see a much more expressive child in him. Shahzaib is my only child, but I have seen friends having more than one child, feeling guilty of not giving much attention to the other kids. They always tell me that they feel guilty of not giving enough time or as much attention to their other kids. Sometimes the best solution is the one that makes the least amount of sense. Stop feeling guilty. I know it is tough, but in this situation, there's probably not much you can do to change things. You are a good parent and you aren't deliberately trying to give more attention to one child over the other. It's only because of the circumstances that you are doing so. Instead, when you do have a minute or two, devote it to that sibling. Take them out for a little date or for some special bonding time. It doesn't have to be extravagant. It can be as simple as grabbing a treat, playing a board game, or reading a book together. It's those little moments like these that they will remember forever. Chapter number 9. Busting the Myths. While parenting a special needs child, along with other things, we have to carry the burden of the taboos and the myths attached to it. For example, how is it like to be the parent of a special child, or assumptions about how children with special needs behave? I did not even realize this until I faced them, and guess what? Instead of giving them air, I confronted them and busted them. Trust me, there is a huge list of these myths, and I can write another book on them, but here, I would like to mention the most important and most common ones. If someone tries to impose their old-fashioned beliefs on me, I respect their opinion, and I do understand that this is their truth, not mine. I'm sure you must be confronting these set of notions too. I hope how I bust them will help you also. Myth number 1. Special child is a curse, or I must have done something wrong to deserve this. With my growing knowledge and awareness, I think this myth has to do more with our older generations, who had no idea about genetic inheritance or chromosomal structure and how it works. While I pray for the safety of all the kids in this world, yet I've seen cases where a child is born totally fine because of some accident, had suffered brain injury and had to live a special needs life. It can happen to anyone and any time in life. Please do not get me wrong here, but as a society, we have to understand this strong message so that we can change our views and attitudes towards people with disabilities. Myth number 2. If you have a special child, your life is over. Don't be hard on yourself. And don't adopt that self-pity mood. Learn to have fun with your special needs child. We have so much fun with Shahzaib. We have traveled to so many places with him, and we enjoy doing activities with him and make a schedule for him. For example, weekends are family days. We take Shahzaib for swimming during the daytime, and my husband and I try to sneak out alone for a quick sip of coffee. You still can come up with activities which you all can enjoy. Join special needs support groups and participate in the activities. Myth number 3. Children with disabilities cannot lead full and productive lives. Children with disabilities are just as capable of leading full and productive lives as anyone else. We all have things we are not good at, but when we focus on what we can do and positive, the opportunities are endless. Myth number 4. Physically dependent kids are not intellectual. This is a general myth that if a child needs special assistance physically, he or she is incapable of doing anything mentally. This is not correct, as CP children can be physically dependent, but intellectually they are as smart as anyone. I have personally known CP people to acquire gold medals in their educational fields and proven themselves immensely professionally successful to be working as CEOs of various companies. Chapter number 10. Spread awareness and promote acceptance. My message is love. It should reach any distance. Jigar Muradabadi. The reason I'm talking about spreading awareness about special need kids is the fear of acceptance in society, followed by expensive facilities or not having enough support for everyday life and less acceptance in the society. If there is enough awareness and acceptance, the percentage of people in each of the category will reduce. 19 years back, when I would pick up the magazines and try to find any information on special needs parenting, I would get more frustrated to see that all the tools and tips are for all the perfect babies. And I used to wonder, what about my not so perfect baby? And all the other babies like him, who require more tips and tools to survive than anyone else in the world. It is indeed overwhelming to see that now so many organizations and movements are playing a vital role in spreading this awareness. With all the awareness campaigns and celebrating autism or special needs or disability days, the general mindset of people in our society has evolved substantially. Still, there is so much to be done from the basic level. It's been done already in some very advanced countries where they make the mainstream kids interact with the special needs ones. And sometimes even a training is also given as to how to act when one comes across a person with any kind of disability. Whatever is being done, it is confined to and revolving around the circle of people who are directly or indirectly exposed to special need kids. People who are never exposed or have never dealt with special needs are the ones who really need to be awakened. And this can be easily done through education at a primary level, because this message needs to reach out to families having absolutely no exposure to special kids or disabled people. Sadly, I see that most activities in summer camps cater to the mainstream kids. When asked, these camp centers organizers say that they are not equipped enough to accommodate special need kids. There is hardly any major equipment required apart from learning toys and tools and a big kind heart. Mothers can and should be allowed to guide the teachers, but generally people aren't willing to take that extra challenge to come out of the comfort zone. I would still not generalize, as I have come across some kind-hearted souls who went out of their way to help Shahzaib and me. Also, when I travel to the UK and other European countries, I can feel a major difference in the general behavior of the people towards special children. They have the infrastructure that support the special needs, kids and adults. For example, availability of wheelchairs, ticket waivers for special needs people, and big discounts for their carers. Priority for any service, ramps, and lifts at the major tourist attractions. Even generally, the behavior of the people in these countries is different. They will not look at you and your child with sympathy. They will offer help if they feel you need it and will not give you any unsolicited advice. Still, nowadays, majority of the activities revolves around mainstream kids. This is mainly because people are not exposed to the different label ones. Hence, to spread awareness and promote acceptance, I would like to reach as far as to many hearts I can. It is extremely important to educate people, especially children, about different special needs in order to give them a better understanding, to help break the social barriers, give them a wholesome approach to inclusion of people with different disabilities, which in turn will allow them to become better people and citizens. Workshops at senior government level should be organized for adults to emphasize on laws for special needs, pupils for their equal rights. Emphasize on laws for their equal rights and safety, special facilities and relaxations on public places and events, infrastructure which are special needs friendly worldwide, especially in third world countries. Formulate laws for special needs facilities and relaxations while traveling by any mode like airplanes and trains. Chapter number 11. Traveling with a special needs child. Traveling with a child is a task, and with special needs can be more challenging, especially when they are older. However, planning beforehand can make life easier for all the family. It is advisable to start with short or local trips, either by an airplane or train, car, or even a bus. Short trips can be for smaller distances or time, or both. I remember Shahzaib's first trip with me when I visited my brother in Islamabad, capital of my beloved country, Pakistan. I was traveling from Karachi. Shahzaib was nearly 3 years old, but he was still very small. It was around 10 to 12 years back. I was not so experienced then. but I took the risk of traveling with him alone by air, maybe because it was just 2.5-hour flight. I always make a checklist of things for Shahzaib. His medicines, prescribed and also basic for fever, cough or indigestion. Canned food when he was small, now some of his favorite biscuits or snacks. Small water bottle, toiletries, extra clothes, disinfectants, wipes, his favorite toys, extra shoes and socks. I also visit his doctor before traveling just to make sure everything is okay and ready in all aspects. Traveling by airplane. If you're traveling by airplane, make sure that you speak to the agent or the airline first, informing that you are traveling with a special needs child, especially if your child is moderate to severe or has some physical limitation. There can be seats allocated to your child as per your choice, priority check-ins, priority luggage handling, and also customized food available inside the flight. Explain to your travel agent or ticket agent or the airline that you have a special needs child and need to be seated up front and near the toilets of the plane. Also, sometimes some bands or stickers can be available so that people can identify your child and give you priority services. They would know how to handle your child and your family. Wheelchair service is available also. You can have it booked with the ticket. Just confirm this at the boarding counter before you get on the plane and inform the cabin crew about your request before the plane lands. Some airlines allow the strollers till inside the plane, while some airlines provide their own strollers. There are some kind of customized labels available online. You can have it printed with your child name and diagnosis in a creative way, like, "Hi, my name is Shahzaib and I'm a special needs child. I'm non-verbal," with a contact number on it, so in case if the child gets lost, God forbid, people can contact you. These labels can be a permanent feature for your child's safety whenever he's out of the house or traveling by any mode of transportation. You can find many companies' websites on social media who can help you with that. Traveling by train. Traveling on train is a little easier as you are still on the ground and it stops at different stations, and in case of emergency, you can stop the train. It would be excellent if your child can take all the movement of the train, but I would advise not to prefer traveling through trains frequently, as all the movements of the train can be overwhelming for your child. Traveling by car. If you are traveling long distances by car, make sure that there are enough safety measures like the car seat or booster or seat belts. Also ensure that there is enough space for one person to lie down, enough food for the way, enough water for drinking and other purposes, a traveling toilet seat. One of the parents should sit with the child, especially if your child is hyper or has aggressive hitting or any self-harming behavior, or has a tendency of throwing things. Keep no metal or glass around them in the car, and again, always carry your child's favorite toys, books or games. Chapter number 12. Alternative methods of treatment available all around the world. We as parents are always looking for some new kind of treatment or a miracle medicine, and we know that there is so much which has been offered out there, and so much research is in progress that there is no end to these therapies and alternative methods of treatment. I learned about so many treatment and alternative methods and therapies just by being a part of the SFS Special Family Support Group in Bahrain. As we have parents from all over the world discussing and sharing their experiences with their pros and cons. It all depends on the diagnosis of your child, how far you're willing to go, how much money you want to spend, and most importantly, how much risk you want to take. You can go to different websites and do some research according to your child's diagnosis. Apart from the therapies I mentioned in the beginning, physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech and language therapy, and acquired behavior assessment, which are already applied and successful, there are other alternative methods available all around. These methods may not work for your child. Sometimes they may work better on one child and may not on the other, as every child is different. For me, when I have to choose some kind of treatment or therapy for Shahzaib, I keep these things into considerations. Number 1, what are the side effects, if there are any? Number 2, how invasive is it? Number 3, how much cost is involved? Number 4, will it be worth giving it a try? Number 5, how much traveling is involved? Number 6, what is the time duration? Number 7, how much time will the whole treatment of the therapy take? Number 8, how long will it take to show results? Number 9, how sustainable the results are? Number 10, is it a one-time course or it requires repetition, and how often? Number 11, is it done by a male or female therapist? Sometimes it is really important if the therapy or treatment is done in closed rooms, especially with girls and especially if your child is non-verbal. I prefer to be with Shahzaib inside the room or at a place where I can see him. I prefer a male therapist as Shahzaib is strong, God bless. And he really likes and gets friendlier with male therapists more than female therapists. It all depends on how old your child is also. I'm sharing here something that I've personally tried for Shahzaib, or my friends have there for kids. I just want to mention one thing here, that these methods are alternative methods and works differently on different kids. So please do your own research properly according to your child's diagnosis and suitability. Movement-based therapies, dietary treatments, holistic treatments, bioenergy treatments, hearing therapies, and so on. Movement-based anode Baniel method, ABM. I came to know about this method about 7 years ago from one of my sisters-in-law who also has a special child, and I decided to do my research on this. I found out that Anand Baniel is an American and the great mind behind this method. It is a movement-based therapy and involves physical manipulation or movements for awakening the brain. ABM has identified 9 simple principles which they call the 9 essentials and have explained these at depth in their book, The 9 Essentials. I ordered this book. It is a must-read. And even if you do not want to try the therapy itself, I would highly recommend you to read the book. They have a website, www.anandbanielmethod.com. Please visit and check out the online courses and book titled Kids Beyond Limits, which is available online and can be ordered too. Luckily, I have family in England and we do visit London often, so we contacted them and took Shahzaib for 2 years. The result was fantastic and unbelievable. If you are residing in the USA or if you can travel to the USA, nothing like that. I would highly recommend this method as a must-try. Feldenkrais method. This method is very close to ABM, but the technique is a little different. The Feldenkrais method, FM, is a type of exercise therapy devised by Israeli Moshe Feldenkrais during the mid-20th century. The method is claimed to reorganize connections between the brain and the body and improves body movement and psychological state. Luckily, the wife of Shahzaib's ABM practitioner is an FM practitioner, and his programmer did include 1 session of FM also. The results are again unbelievable. In the first few sessions, Shahzaib was displaying a very aggressive behavior, but after a couple of sessions, he became much calmer and cooperative. Best part of both ABM and FM are not only for special needs children, but also for adults with any kind of mental, physical, permanent or temporary disability. Dietary treatments. Diet is one area that can be modified relatively easily. Sometimes dietary changes are necessary due to allergic or celiac disease. And sometimes families choose a new diet for overall improvements in health. I have to be careful with Shahzaib's diet, not because he's allergic, but because my baby loves food. And since he's not as active as the kids of his age, he can gain weight very easily, especially around his tummy area. This is very normal in special needs kids, especially when they are not very active. There is a great risk of developing diabetes as a result of accumulation of fat cells around the intestine area, restraining the flow of insulin in the blood. His dependency on us while walking is also another reason. Shahzaib can walk on his own but cannot balance if there is a hurdle and can fall, so we cannot leave him alone while walking on stairs. I don't give him any junk food except for a burger, which is allowed to have once a week only on the weekends. Ice cream maybe once a month, chocolates once a week, and I give him 1/4 glass of fresh, extracted orange juice every day in the morning. If I give him rice in one meal, then meal will be bread. Home cooked food. Instead of sugar, I use honey to maintain the levels of sugar in the body. Basically, all group of food, but in moderation. I try to avoid carbohydrates and cook vegetables every day in the house. There are many types of dietary treatments. I would strongly suggest consulting a dietitian, preferably one who has experience with special needs kids, and get a plan. You can modify the ingredients according to your child's taste. The most popular and successful are the gluten-free diets, specifically the carbohydrate diet. Life Vintage Dietary Supplements. These work on the biological aspect of the body and is called biohacking. It basically works on the gut. I tried it and first chain noticed that Shahzaib was sleeping better. Their package is called Vitality Stack. Please visit their website or Facebook page for more information. The best thing about these products is that they have no side effects, absolutely. Namcheck Protocol. The Namcheck Protocol is a specialized nutrition plan which was developed by Dr. Patrick Namcheck, Doctor of Namcheck Consultative Medicine. Dr. Namcheck is an internal medicine doctor who is an expert on autonomic nervous system. The treatment involves a two-step process that aims to rebalance intestinal bacteria and omega-3 fatty acids, which in turn allow the child's brain to begin to heal and function properly. The basics of the approach comprise cooking with extra virgin olive oil and introducing insulin and omega-3 fatty acid supplements into a child's daily regime. And the book lays out the exact steps and appropriate doses based on age. They have a book too, which you can order from their website or Facebook links. It is called Miracles Do Happen. It is highly recommended to read this book before starting this treatment by the Dr. Namcheck, as it gives a very detailed knowledge of the treatment. Holistic treatments. Holistic medicine is a form of healing that considers the whole person, body, mind, spirit, and emotions in the quest for optimal health and wellness. A holistic doctor may use all forms of healthcare, from conventional medication to alternative therapies to treat a patient. This may include diet, exercise, psychotherapy, relationship, and spiritual counseling, and more. It also includes complementary and alternative therapies such as acupuncture, acupressure, reflexology, chiropractic care, Reiki, homeopathy, Ayurveda, massage therapy, music therapy, naturopathy, and others. They may also include Western medications and surgical procedures. Chapter number 13. Protecting your child from abuse. This is one of the most important topics I wanted to discuss and talk about. As much as we don't want to talk about it, we cannot ignore the fact that children are more susceptible to child abuse than adults. Parenting can be very time-intensive, stressful job, especially if you are raising a special needs child. Caring for a child with a disability or special needs or difficult behavior is a challenge. Sometimes you are living far away without your family support. Sometimes financial difficulties without your family support can add to your worries. It is important to get the support you need so you are emotionally and physically able to support your child. Parents of a special needs child, especially those having no experience or any kind of exposure in their surroundings, have to go through a lot of learning. It's almost a new lesson with every new dawn. And in this struggle of getting the best for their child and running back and forth sometimes, they tend to overlook some important aspects such as child abuse. And it can be defined as: child abuse is when someone, whether through action or failing to act, causes injury, death, emotional harm, or risk of serious harm to a child. Generally, abuse implies physical or sexual, but it can be emotional also. Emotional abuse is as harmful as physical abuse and sometimes even worse. The best way to avoid abuses is to prevent it from happening. Let me go into details of each kind and then we will discuss how to prevent it. Physical abuse involves physical harm or injury to the child. It may be the result of a deliberate attempt to hurt the child or excessive physical punishment. Sometimes the teachers, therapists, careers, and even parents intentionally or unintentionally adopt this form as a way to discipline children. Many physically abusive parents insist that their actions are simply forms of discipline, ways to make children learn to behave. But there is a big difference between using physical punishment to discipline and physical abuse. It can also be defined as using fear to control behavior. Bruises that cannot be explained by a fall, burns, fractures, cuts, bloody spots on the undergarments, change in behavior as increased crying, jags, or increasing withdrawals from others, a change in habits, a sudden fear of men or adults in general, unwillingness to be touched, secretiveness, an increased desire to bathe, wearing extra clothes to bed, or sudden habit of bedwetting. Imagine the level of stress the child has to go through, not knowing what is going to set the parent off. The poor child is constantly walking on eggshells and therefore tends to make more mistakes and react, resulting into more intense behavior, which results into more intense abuse, leading to even worse behavior. Emotional abuse. Emotional abuse is usually perpetrated by using hurtful labeling or tagging the child. Words can hurt, and emotional abuse can severely damage a child's mental health or social development. Examples of emotional abuse include constant belittling, shaming, and humiliating, calling names and making negative comparisons to others, telling a child they are not good, worthless, bad, or a mistake, frequent yelling, threatening, or bullying, ignoring or rejecting a child as punishment, giving them the silent treatment, limiting physical contact with a child, no hugs, kisses, or other signs of affection, exposing a child to violence against others, whether it is against the other parent, sibling, or even a pet. Sexual abuse. Child sexual abuse is the scariest form of abuse, and it can create layers of guilt and shame. It is important to recognize that sexual abuse doesn't always involve body contact. Exposing a child to sexual situations or material is sexually abusive, whether or not touching is involved. Sexually abused children are tormented by fear, shame, and sometimes guilt. The shame of sexual abuse makes it very difficult for children to overcome forward. They may worry that others won't believe them, will be angry with them, or that it will split their family apart. Because of these difficulties, false accusations of sexual abuse are not common. So if a child confides in you, take them seriously. For nonverbal kids, it is so complicated, but there are signs which you can look for. Be kind enough to not only take care of your own child, but also to keep an eye on the other children in your environment. And if you can sense something is not right, try to reach the school management or parents and inform them about your concerns. Now you will think what kind of signs you should look for, so here are some tips I could think of. What should I look for? Physical signs include difficulty walking or sitting, torn clothing, stained or bloodied underwear, bruising or rashes on visible or private areas of the body, pain or itching in the genital area, venereal disease, pregnancy, and changes in the weight. Behavior, red flags. Age-inappropriate sexual behavior. Child had taken a picture of his penis. Changes in personality. Increased time at school with one adult. What might the abuser do? Develop close relationships with students. Spend time alone together. Spend time before or after school together. Spend time in a private space together. How can you actually prevent it from happening? We must understand that individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities are far more likely to be abused by someone they know. School and other agencies should work in partnership with parents to ensure that disabled children receive Consistent, clear, accessible information on safe touch, choice, and control, puberty, sex, relationships, and abuse, and knowing how to let others know when they feel unsafe. Get to know all individuals working with your child, including those working in your home, at school, therapy sessions, and recreational activities. For caregivers or therapists that you are hiring privately, gather as much information as possible, including educational, employment, and criminal history. If they have previously worked for reputable institutions, it is likely that thorough background checks were done at that time. Investigate references to assure satisfaction in previous employment and departure on good terms. If the position requires professional certification, verify authentic licensure. Be sure that the prospective hire can explain any time gaps on their resume. For center-based staff, including teachers, make impromptu visits and observe interactions before your child knows you are present. One of the easiest ways I have acquired to give bath to Shahzaib every day morning and go check for any marks or even pimples, and I check him again immediately after coming back from school to see any hurt or color change. Shahzaib's teachers know me so well, so if they find any kind of rash occurred, they send me picture asking me if it was there from before and if I am aware of it. Please encourage the teachers, nannies, or carriers to practice the same with you. Transparency is very important when it comes to any institute, school, organization, or individual dealing with your child. Refuse to take your child where there is no transparency. In other words, do not compromise on your child's safety. Insist on putting cameras in your child's class and play areas. We also have cameras in the house, and our nanny was informed about it. Firstly, she would not initiate anything knowing she's under surveillance. Secondly, it is ethical to inform her. There are so many cheap options of amazing quality cameras available on these online sites. They can be installed at home. Nannies or carers should not be allowed to stay with the child in closed doors even when your child goes to the toilet. Even at the doctors, make sure one parent stays with the child in case of small and general checkups and procedures. Chapter number 14. Parents of Special Needs Children. Here is my take on the various kinds of parents of differently able kids and their various approaches to the subject. I pen it down with great respect and love for all the parents. Shahzaib is 20 years old now. May God protect him from evil eyes. Amen. Over these years, I have formulated an understanding based on a combination of what I have learned from my own experiences, meeting countless parents, workshops, discussions with friends, counseling, sharing new ideas, and motivating each other in low times, doctors and therapists I have met. I realize that parents can have different approaches or reactions for having special needs children. Sometimes it is time related, sometimes it is a child's age related, and sometimes it is the personality of different individuals. So I thought it may be interesting to discuss them here and my humble suggestions for them. They might know all these things from before, but a reassurance is always very comforting. Again, these suggestions are based on my personal experiences, observations, advice given to me by my lovely parents, friends and doctors, and other professionals who I have been seeing for Shahzaib. I know there are more experienced parents than me who are reading this book right now, but I know there are parents who are not so experienced and they need some guidance and help. This is the basic idea behind writing this book. Non-accepting parents. The most difficult category to deal with, but I do not blame them. Marriage and pregnancy come with dreams, lots of dreams, dreams of having children, dreams of seeing them grow old, seeing them get educated, seeing their failures, pacifying them, watching them graduate, celebrating their professional achievements, and dreams of getting them married, seeing their kids be born, and all the emotions attached to these dreams. To accept that all these dreams are shattered in that moment when the doctor tells you that your child is a special child or is different from other children, and that he's sorry that you nurtured those dreams so long and now need to visualize a new set of dreams. is indeed very difficult. I have met parents who take years to accept that there is something different about their child and that the child needs to be handled differently. They stay in denial, and when approached by the doctors or educationists, they react aggressively, denying and giving them explanations, giving them excuses like, "We have a history of late speech in our family," or "Our child is just spoiled by the grandparents, and that is why he or she is behaving like this." Of course, they fear the social stigma attached to it. Why do you care about the social stigma? Is it going to help your child? No. Are you? No. Now, my advice to such parents is that the sooner you realize your child needs help, the faster you can help and the better their life will be. Because being in denial, these parents are not only causing harm to the child but to themselves also by living in fear of the unknown and not doing anything to overcome it. I read somewhere that it is easier to come to terms with the unknown. Sorry, I do not agree, because once the unknown becomes known, it is easier to handle, manage, overcome, and overpower it. Who is telling you to stop dreaming? Only you should revisualize them. Parents need to understand that by not accepting the special needs of their child, they are making it worse for the child and for themselves. Even some mainstream kids need more attention than their siblings or friends. During all these years, I have seen mindsets changing, an increasing number in acceptance of special children worldwide, and I must congratulate the social awareness organizations, movements, which have played a vital role in this regard. Also, sometimes based on your conditioning and upbringing, we choose to make life more complicated when there are easier ways or options available. When I was expecting Shahzaib, I did not even know whether it's going to be a girl or a boy. I wanted to keep it a surprise. But there was some planning, some dreams, and some ideas. Like many other parents, we imagined bringing him home after a few days, but things were fated to happen differently for us. In reality, I had to come alone home, leaving Shahzaib behind in the hospital. So what? I couldn't do anything about it. So I started planning how to bring home as soon as possible, making sure he's progressing well and there is no stone left unturned while he was getting his treatment. Our dreams changed to planning, and then expecting a good or a successful result became our mission. Following these steps should help you. Accept, get the right diagnosis, seek professional help, get all the assessments done, start working on early intervention. Do not think limited. Revisualize your dreams according to your wishes. Work on them. You will see wonders happening. Number 2, depressed parents. After accepting the fact that our child needs special support, some parents go into depression, fear of the unknown, and the feeling that their life has changed forever. They start questioning their fate and asking themselves questions like, what did we do to deserve this? Why God did this to us? Why is our child different? What will people say? How will our society accept them? How far will our child progress? What will we be able to do for our child? All type of natural but negative questions. Then if the family does not understand or are not enlightened enough to understand, that family make things worse for the parents. My advice for such parent is to take some professional help and guidance. There are several available. Look for support groups and ask your doctors to guide you. Again, it is okay to get depressed and okay to experience emotional ups and downs, but it is not okay to stay in that state for a long time. This is because if you are depressed or in a negative state of mind, your ability to think will get affected and it will get more negative. Your child can sense you and they can get depressed too, and it can come out in any form of behavior issue, as a child have no freaking idea what is happening to him or to people around him. When I get sick, I can see that Shahzaib is not liking it. He has always felt my state of mind since he was very small. So I always try to stay positive in front of him by putting a smile on my face and being playful with him, no matter what the situation is. Always think This too shall pass. Be positive. If you don't feel like putting a smile on your face, especially in front of your kids, get out of this state as soon as possible. Talk to someone motivational speakers and counselors and people who can uplift your mood. Go out, spend time with your family and good friends. Talk about something else. Go and give yourself a spa treatment once in a while. It is really normal to feel depressed and tired easily, as we have to talk about the same thing over and over again, especially in the beginning. Make trips to the hospitals, getting more and more information. Try to enjoy your child. Every child is different. All of them are so cute and they have different qualities. Enjoy their small gestures. I remember when I was working with Shahzaib school, my office was right near the entrance, and every day, every child would give me a hug before entering the classrooms. They all would call me Shahzaib's mom. Accept your child happily so that society accepts them happily. Be strong. All will be well. Shy parents. I'm referring to the parents of children with severe cases of depression or other mood disorders like ADHD, psychosis, autism, and other emotional or cognitive disorders. Such kids have some obvious behaviors which may look or sound different from a normal person's society standards, like meltdowns and tantrums. The difference between tantrums and meltdown is that a tantrum have a purpose and meltdowns are results of sensory overload. A tantrum will usually stop when the child gets what he wants, changes his tactics, or when he responds differently from how we usually respond. In their teenage, they must resort to carrying a soft toy or too much hyperactivity, self-stimulation, clapping. These children catch attention quickly in public places or gatherings, especially when people are unfamiliar with them. As a result, parents get lost of different reactions. Some people will show their sympathy, some would look surprised, shocked, and even scared. I remember once a couple came to me for counseling. They had 2 children, one 8-year-old and other a 5-year-old girl. The firstborn, the boy, was diagnosed with severe autism and ADHD. The mother told me that her husband feels very shy taking their son out anywhere because of their son's hyperactivity. They get a lot of attention and mostly negative. So the couple stopped going out anywhere, I mean literally anywhere. No outings, no big family gatherings. This was putting the whole family into severe depression, hence fighting among the couple increased, resulting into more negativity in the home environment. It was increasingly affecting both the kids more, and they both were getting more aggressive in every passing day. The stay-home mom was drained physically and emotionally, taking care of her 2 children on her own the whole day, including the weekend. The father was working outside the whole day, and on weekends he didn't want to be disturbed. While they were talking, I was observing them, and I noticed that the boy had no connection with his parents emotionally, especially with the father. He was still a bit more connected with the mother because she handled him the whole day. She could understand his needs and wants, but there was absolutely no bonding between the father and the son. I must mention here that both the kids were absolutely beautiful. I loved them. The boy was showing typical signs of autism. The girl was throwing a lot of tantrums, and surprisingly, the parents had absolutely no issue with her behavior. So I asked the father, who seemed to be the root cause of the problem, why he feels shy about his son so much that he has stopped taking him out or taking his family out. And his answer was expected. He said, "Yeah, because we get so much of attention and mostly negative." I asked him what was his son does to get that attention. He said that the son makes a lot of different sounds and runs wildly, not listening to them. Then I asked the father, "What do you want to happen? What will make you happy?" His reply was, "I want people to understand my son, his problem and his situation." Then I asked him, "Who would do that for him and you?" I could see curiosity in his eyes. I said, "You. Only you can bridge the gap between him and the outside world." He looked quite surprised. He said, "But I don't know my child so well, and how can I go to each and every person explaining to them our situation?" I replied, "If you want society to accept him as he is, you have to accept him first as he is. And you should be proud of him because he's an angel, a harmless and pure soul. If you have accepted your daughter as she is, why can't you accept your son as he is? Why don't you feel shy or embarrassed when she's screaming and throwing tantrums? Why does it bother you when he does it? It's only in your mind. It's not the other people, it's you. Don't judge your child. If you behave normally with your son and according to his needs, other people will do the same. I advised him to start knowing his son and make the son get to know him too. The son didn't know anything about his dad, and so he was reacting the same way as the father. I also advised the father to spend some happy, healthy time with his son, and that they are blessed to have a child like this, and that God knew that they are capable of handling him. Hence, he gave them one of the purest souls to them for his divine custody. I gave him ideas to become friendly with his son and daughter. She looked quite affected from the whole situation too. To take the family out for retreats and let the family, friends and people around them get used to their child. Introduce him to other people like I did, I had said. He's a human being with all feelings and emotions. He expresses them in a different way. You need to learn his way rather than teach him your way. Discuss with people their likes and dislikes and how they express their happiness and anger, their funny habits. Love your child and be proud of your child if you expect other people to do the same. These were my words of advice to those parents. After a few months, when I met the family again, there was a huge difference in the whole chemistry. The child was much calmer and so were his parents. They looked like a happy family now. The father told me that he doesn't care now. In fact, if someone inquires about his son, he very calmly explains his condition and they understand and offer help. Sometimes people give them contacts of good doctors and links which they think can be helpful for the child. Let's change the attitude from pity to special. That would make the world a better and a special place to live. Shahzaib gets a lot of attention too, sometimes negative and sometimes positive. You don't have to take people's reactions seriously. You must realize that there's a lack of awareness, knowledge and absence of training as to how to deal with people with special needs, who can either be kids or be older people on wheelchairs or other life-supporting aids. I wish they had taught us in a school as a separate subject as to how to take care for such people. I introduced Shahzaib to such people by telling them God has made him a little different and that Shahzaib goes to school also and that he has friends and he loves music and food and he loves to travel by car. After listening to all these, I mostly feel a sense of ease in another person, be it an adult or a child. Sometimes it can take 2 or 3 meetups for people to get comfortable with your child. Sometimes it happens immediately. Be ready for never to. Some people refuse to understand your child and always react in the same negative way. Just ignore them. Over-enthusiastic parents. I know that as parents of a special child, we're always worried if we're on the right track, and we mostly spend our time agonizing over whether we somehow caused our child problem, whether we have chosen the right medical or therapeutic options, whether we are doing enough to improve her chances in life. In this quest, some parents go overboard. In order to do their best, they overdo, resulting into sometimes wasting their energies in the wrong direction. I'm not saying that we should stop exploring and stop researching in order to get affirmations that we are on the right track or we doing enough. In this whole process, the child absorbs only as much he or she can, but the parents get exhausted and lose themselves somewhere in the journey and sometimes develop health issues like blood pressure, anxiety, and depression. These parents spend all the time taking care of their kids, leaving simply not enough hours in the day for self-care. For such parents, my advice is to take things easy. Take out time for exercise and meditation. For many people are huge stress relievers. Also socialize with friends. Just as lack of exercise can lead to serious health issues, so is true of nutrition. Too many fast food meals can wreak havoc with your digestion, weight, and wellness. At the end, I would advise all special parents to indulge in hobbies they are passionate about for themselves only. There has to be a me time to give your brain and body a break. Listen to some good music, it really helps. Give yourself a break to rejuvenate so your child can be rejuvenated too. Anxious and inquisitive parents. These parents are also inspiration for me and for many other parents also. They're very close to being over-enthusiastic parents, always looking for some new methods, treatments, alternative methods in medicines and activities. But the only difference between them and over-enthusiastic parents is that anxious parents are always comparing their kids with the other kids. They're always noticing other kids and feeling anxious to the extent that they keep wondering why some other child is able to do more than their own child, or why their child is not progressing as quickly as some other kid, even if they are working as hard or sometimes even more than the others. I did my research and came to know that the way we talk, think, feel, and even to some extent what we believe are partially a sum of the experiences our parents and their parents may have experienced. We carry in our genes, partially or wholly, the experiences we have ourselves gone through from the moment our mothers conceives us. This is now scientifically proven too. I was immensely awed to know this, and it all makes sense when you realize that our brain remembers everything and organizes and utilizes information as is required. So we need to realize that each and every child is different when they have the same diagnosis, but what we carry in our genes plays an important role in our personality. Hence, don't compare your child with any other children. Instead, try to explore your child's own strength. I'm not ready to accept that your child is less than anyone else out there. They are just different. Try to find out that difference. Maybe another child is not able to do what your child can do. And for sure, there are many parents who look up to you. For me, the most important thing is survival and tools necessary to support it. Activities of daily life, also known as ADL in the professional language, come first and consist of basic activities of daily life like dressing up, going to the toilet, eating, brushing, and so on. The rest is secondary. They come under occupational therapy, where an occupational therapist designs a program to teach the child and works on supporting exercises. For example, when Shahzaib had severe cognitive issues and his hands and finger were not strong, his therapist made him play with Play-Doh to strengthen the hands and finger muscles. So now he can do a lot of stuff with his hands like opening a door, picking up something heavy, hold a bottle, eat dry stuff by himself, and so on. I would repeat that if your child is not able to do these activities, don't worry and stress. Keep trying different techniques and try making them do different stuff. Identify what they can do and make them excel in those areas. One thing I've learned and realized is that your child learns the most from your home environment and from you. Therapies do support, but what you do at home makes a significant difference. Try to include your child in different activities at home. These kids are very smart. They can understand everything and absorbing all the information. They may not show immediate results. But don't give up. Keep feeding input, and you will see the output sometimes soon and sometimes after months. Yet, be patient. Patience is the key. Chapter number 15. Single Parenting Special Needs Children. Parenting special need kids is a beautiful challenge by itself, but it is really more challenging for single parents. The situations can be different, like one of the spouses can be working in a different city or country. It can be a divorce or a separation. Sometimes one of the parents is not available emotionally, finding it hard to accept the fact and deciding to just withdraw themselves emotionally. So, challenges can be many, and if there is no support from the other parent, a single parent is left alone to handle the care of the child. Sometimes your other children as well. It is a lot of work, and even though they want to do the best they can for your child, there are times that could cause them to burn out at a faster pace than households who share the day-to-day demands of special needs parenting. The challenges may be very hard, but where there is a will, there is a way. Single parents can make a good life for themselves and their children. Here are some ideas. Make a daily plan and try to keep it same. A daily schedule can help lower stress. If your child knows what to expect, she's likely to have fewer meltdowns, leaving you less stressed and with more time to handle over things. Each of you will have ideas about how your child should be raised, but do your best to keep routines and the same in both households. Sharing ideas and meeting somewhere in the middle, as long things are focused on the child and family's needs, can help with a solid family setting and make your child feel more secure. Connect with other single parents who have kids with special needs. Talking with other people who know what you're going through can help you feel better about your own life. These days, there are so many ways to talk to other parents. Try a web search for local special needs support groups or even single parent support groups. Lots of parents are now using social media to gather and support each other online. To find online groups, you can search within your preferred social medias, Facebook, Instagram, etc. You may find some groups that there are certain diagnoses and some that are for the whole spectrum of disabilities. No matter how you choose to find support, other parents can be your best help. Groups are a great way to share your experiences with other parents. Listen to theirs and trade support and tips along the way. Also make plans with all the kids together. Take them out, have party, celebrate each other. Family time. Even if you're busy, it is of great value to spend time together as family. Choose a time each week to have time together and do something fun. Your child will enjoy having something to look forward to in his weekly routine. Allow yourself to have help from family, friends, and neighbors. Many parents feel the need to do it all, and that can lead to stress, anxiety, and exhaustion. If you have offers from friends or family to help, let them help. When they say, "Let me know how can I help you," they're expressing that they truly want to help you, but may not know how they can be useful. If you have other children who are old enough to help, let them help, but not too much. Sisters and brothers often take on the role of the helper, and that is a normal and beautiful thing. But as we know, our kids with special needs require a lot of help sometimes, and we must be careful not to ask too much of our other children. They need time for themselves, for friends, activities, the time alone with their parent now and then. Counseling can help with stress. A therapist or a counselor can offer an unbiased viewpoint, will listen to your thoughts and worries and help you get through things. There are many programs that offer counseling on a sliding scale, and sometimes it can be covered by health insurance. Ask for help if you need assistance with housing, food, healthcare, or childcare. Ask for help from your local services agencies. Sometimes social services are a great help. Sometimes things are tough when there is only one income in the household and you may struggle to meet all of your needs. Many agencies have assistance programs that qualify households by looking at their earnings and needs. Take some time for yourself. Try to give yourself some time to do something just for you. This time can give you the energy you need. A good way to get in a few minutes for yourself here and there is by setting strict bedtimes for your children, early bedtimes, and give the parent time to relax in the evening. Read your favorite book, take a salt bath, exercise, or watch your favorite show. Of course, there will be changes to your routine, but for the most part, make that time yours. Finding support and having a plan are good for both you and your child. Do what works for you and remember to seek support when you need it. You are not alone. There are many parents of children with special needs that enjoy caring for their child but are also looking at these same issues every day. Chapter number 16: Grandparenting Special Children. Last but not the least, grandparents play an integral part in any family setup. They are the bond which keeps the family and family traditions stuck together. I am not a psychologist and not equipped to study people and pass judgments, but these statements are purely based on my observation, experiences, and my point of view. I am not trying to teach anyone anything here, but just trying to voice my thoughts. We have to understand and perceive things from others' point of view too. I love grandparents and I lost my only grandparent present in my life at a very early stage of my life, my father's mother. I remember her as a very sweet, caring, keeping herself and her needs at the bottom, her sweet voice while she used to pray in the morning. I always felt that lack of the presence of grandparents in my life and still feel envious when I see families with grandparents. I pray for their health and long life because I know what value they hold in our lives. When a child is born with a disability or becomes disabled later in life, his special needs are likely to affect the whole family. Grandparents are no exception. In fact, they can play a vital role in providing support for their adult children and care for their grandchildren or children. They are as clueless as the parents are, especially if there's no previous experience or exposure in the family or friends. I couldn't believe my luck when I got to know that after my marriage I will be living with my husband's grandparents, also in the same house. The love and affection they showed me was like magic. I must say, Shahzaib is very lucky to have such amazing grandparents, and very lucky to have the bonus love of his great-grandmother, my husband's grandmother. And this naughty little devil knows exactly how to make the most and best of them and how to manipulate them. I have been experiencing this magic by enjoying my parents and parents-in-law becoming grandparents to Shahzaib. Each grandparent has got their own style of expressing their love and care. From the day Shahzaib was born until now, the bond is getting stronger and the love is getting deeper. Sometimes I feel jealous and left out for not getting the attention, but I enjoy it. I'm happy that Shahzaib is getting what I have always longed for, and somewhere I look at them and enjoy and feel fulfilled. I lost my father 10 years back, and that was a huge loss for us. He used to call Shahzaib Miracle Baby, always appreciating me and telling me how brave I am. He would add humor, which he was amazing at, to all discussions we would have regarding Shahzaib. He also sang songs for Shahzaib and taught me a lot of prayers. He insisted on this one. Indeed, Allah is the Almighty, and He is capable of doing anything. My mother never compromises on Shahzaib's interest. She's always buying amazing books and toys for him more than I do. My husband's mom makes food of Shahzaib's choice and loves stitching clothes for him. My husband's father does not let me say no to Shahzaib. He gets very upset if I'm busy with some other work and not giving his grandson attention. Shahzaib's grandparents totally adore him and enjoy his gestures, even misbehaviors and tantrums. They pamper and spoil him, more so because we live away from our family. But even when we were in the same country, it was still this way. Overall, they make sure that all his needs are met with and that we as parents are not being strict with him. I'm glad they took the news well, but unfortunately this is not always the same with others. I've heard and seen that sometimes grandparents refuse to accept the fact that there is something wrong with their grandchild or children. As I mentioned before, sometimes even parents find it difficult to accept, so why raise bros about grandparents? Attention, grandparents. It is okay to grieve. Yes, it is totally okay to grieve while you are supporting the family. When Shahzaib was born, my mother used to go out of my room and cry and come back. It is okay to allow yourself to grieve. Shock, numbness, anger, rejection are normal reactions. Nature's way to allow us to develop some coping mechanisms. Otherwise, it can affect your own health also. And you can't afford to get sick when the whole family needs your support. Don't start the blame game. Grandparents are grand human beings as they hold the pillars of the family as long as they are alive. Instead of getting upset and not being ready to accept or starting the blame game, they should understand what their own children must be going through. I have met people having a difficult time handling their kids as well as their parents. Sometimes they try to hide the diagnosis from the family. They fear rejection, they fear that their child would not be accepted in the family, and all kinds of conjectures or advices. Even beliefs in the influence of supernatural or paranormal things like black magic or jinns, and blame games would start. Rejecting or blaming will not help anyone, neither you nor the parents and not even the new baby. It will further create hurt, hatred and chaos. Every child is an angel, a wonderful gift from God. If you can just see the child being a child without his disability, you will be able to enjoy the unconditional love for each other. I can tell you for certain that these kids bring lots of joy, happiness, and good luck with them. Take control of the situation. When a child is born with a disability or becomes disabled later in life, the whole family gets affected. Grandparents, having the experience of coping with the highs and lows of the life, have excellent coping skills. It is time to use these skills. All family members should sit together and talk about how to cope up with the unexpected challenge or challenges to come. Plan a strategy, giving each other comfort of being there for each other. Prepare them mentally as a child's special needs are likely to affect the whole family. Divide the responsibilities amongst your children so the parents of the special child can concentrate on their child only, at least initially. Do some research and gain knowledge. Once you know about a grandchild's diagnosis, try to gain some knowledge. Be proactive, discuss the treatments and medicines with the parents, and talk to the doctors and therapists. This will give you an understanding as to how you can be most helpful, which in turn will bring you and the special needs child closer to each other. One more important thing is to avoid getting information from different sites on the internet and other unreliable sources. Instead, consult with your grandchild's parents and healthcare providers to get the accurate and current information and advice. Respect parents' decisions and wishes. As much as your children need your support and advice, they also need you to believe in them and respect their decisions and wishes. Don't judge their parenting, give them advice, and just try to bear quietly if they disagree. Appreciate their parenting efforts. Trust me, appreciation always gives me so much strength and the confirmation that I'm on the right track. Be friends with other special grandparents. You will feel better when you can share your feelings with people who know what you are going through, says grandparents.com. You can learn more about the disability and you may pick up some tips on how to support your family. Chapter number 17: An Advice for All. How to react and support a special needs child and the family. Shahzaib's birth and the host of developmental and medical issues accompanies his syndrome thrusted us into a world I knew nothing about. The family and friends who supported and surrounded us were given a glimpse of the world of special needs and often struggled about how to help and support us. Often they did not know what to do, what to say, or how to act around us, which made for awkward moments. I know incidents where people were not unkind but just rude towards the special kids and their parents. This is hurtful, and we often discuss the kind of behavior we and our children deserve. I hope my message can reach as many people as possible out there. If someone you know or even meet casually has a child with special needs, there are certain things you do to better support your friend. Mind your language and gestures. Mostly, the unwelcome behavior comes from strangers who may have been never exposed to special needs kids. So if you're likely to be a neighbor to a special needs child, family, or even adult, it might help you. When you encounter a special needs child at a mall, in a playground, or a superstore, or even in your neighborhood, your reaction should be very pleasant. You can give them a smile or just act normal. Don't try to talk secretively, especially in front of them. It would be very nice if you can reach up to them and try to start a conversation. If you think they are not busy or in the middle of something important, you may consider offering help nicely too. Try to talk to the child directly in a friendly tone and inquire the parents about the child. For example, you have such a beautiful child, or how old is your child? If you know them as friends or family, you can ask about the updates on the therapies or how the toilet training is coming along, or about food. Anything specific. Don't make sympathetic faces in front of them. They don't really need your sympathy but love. If you see a child going through a meltdown, do not try to communicate with the child. Instead, ask the parent, guardian, if they need any kind of help. During a meltdown, a person with autism is completely unaware of their actions and what's happening around them. This, their behavior is an involuntary, knee-jerk response to sensory overwhelm. It is almost as if they have had a complete break with reality. Be inclusive. Invite the child or the family to your family events like birthday parties, tea parties, and make them feel comfortable. Be respectful of parents' needs. Special needs children or adults' needs can be very different, like wheelchairs or some aids or some specific toys. Sometimes special needs kids can get overwhelmed amongst the crowd and they can end up in a separate room with one of the parents alone. So be respectful to their needs and requirements and don't judge their actions. Be encouraging. Be as friendly as you can, be supportive as much as you can, be less judgmental about them. If they are not very social, don't talk about them with your other friends. Always admire them and tell them how much you are inspired by them and how strong they are, or that you really like or love the way they are bringing up their special needs child. Chapter number 18. My Planned, Unplanned Journey. Shahzaib is growing up, and while we thoroughly enjoy seeing him progressing, as parents, we often have a question in our mind, a question which haunts parents of children on spectrum. What does the future hold for us? Though I do not like to think about it much and take each day as it comes, at the same time, I cannot deny the fact that we have to be prepared and get Shahzaib prepared for it. I really don't know what the future holds for us. Nobody knows. I just want Shahzaib to be in safe hands. Always, and nothing should stop his activities and therapies. He should be able to live a happy and safe life with people who would really take good care of him and provide him with love, care, and best facilities throughout his life. We all have different circumstances. Usually, siblings are prepared and trained to take care of special needs children in the family. Shahzaib, being the only child, makes it more challenging for us. I often discuss this idea from different mothers and I get different feedback. What I have realized is that enough savings for your special needs child is a must. Also, discussing your concerns with your family and choosing a legal guardian is very important. Insurance under the name of the child is a very good idea. You are lucky if you are living in a country where they have facilities for special needs people, especially children. If not, then you really have to do some hardcore planning in order to ensure that your child is able to pursue their lives. I'm still struggling with this. I would love to learn more about new ideas from my readers for me and for other parents, which I can share through social media. One thing I can assure parents of special needs children is that if you have faith in God and then in yourself, every step will become easier for you, just as it became for us. So now I don't worry about the future because I know this shall pass too. Thus it is, my friends, that these are the beautiful experiences and learnings from life until now. These experiences have made me a stronger and a better person in so many ways. It has turned my limitations into beautiful privileges. All the love and attention we get has enabled us to walk happily and with serenity in this bumpy ride. After all, the excitement I have experienced so far, I look forward to my future as a happy and healthy long life with Shahzaib. William Shakespeare had said that one grows by suffering. I write now about what I have believed in since the day Shahzaib came into my life, and over all these 19 years, that if today I was given a choice to accept the same experience and every joy and bliss that came with it, refusing all the bitterness, I would stretch out my hands and say, I will not change a single word of the story. I love it and thank you for choosing me again. With love from Mama to Shahzaib. I don't think the worst thing that could happen to anyone is raising a child with special needs, but to raise a child who is cruel to those with special needs. All about Shahzaib. Shahzaib enjoys food and especially spicy and Pakistani cuisine. Long drives, loud music, Sufi and hard rock. Loves balloons, enjoys swimming, enjoys horse riding, cannot resist juices, yogurt, soft drinks, and ice creams. He gets them once a week as a treat. Enjoys socializing and loves to go to fancy places and restaurants. Dislikes going to the beach, his nails being cut. Does not appreciate if something is out of routine. Does not like hot weather. Now get ready to laugh. Number 1. If Shahzaib does not like any place, he would make so much noise to get attention or to annoy us. And he wins always. We have to mostly leave the place. He would pick up his shoes and give it to us as a hint to make a move. Number 2. Asks us to draw the curtains when he wants to sleep. Number 3. Shahzaib enjoys the company of boys older to him, let's say men. Shahzaib is non-verbal but very expressive. Communicate through pointing as gestures. Shahzaib has an extraordinary sharp memory, can remember places, people, bad and good experiences, and relate to people. Shahzaib likes to follow the routine, and I think he can tell the time. Mischievous Shahzaib pulls his cousin's ponytails, acting as if sleeping and sneaking out of the bed quietly. Always takes off his shirt when at home. Looked at his own artwork and said, "Oi, oi," spontaneously. Puts his hands on his eyes if he sees something getting hurt or beaten. Peeks through the windows and in the rooms like what is happening inside. After putting Shahzaib in bed, when we think he's sleeping, he comes out of the room with a bang, laughing like I did it. When I hug him tight and kiss him, he pushes me away saying, "Mama." I'm like he's saying I'm a big boy now. Going in the kitchen and checking out what is cooking. While traveling through airplane, his biggest attraction is the food served. He keeps looking out through the aisles from between and seats and demand the cabin crew to bring food. Thank you for listening.